Alright, so did you know the word metaverse was in a contest this year for Word of the Year? Yeah, it lost. Apparently, the Oxford Dictionary runs word contests every year, and the metaverse was in the top 3, but ultimately it lost to another word, goblin mode, which is a word I've never heard of before in my life, but apparently it's a word that is used to describe a type of behavior which is, quote, lazy, slovenly, or greedy, typically in a way that rejects social norms or expectations. I guess goblin mode won because it sort of describes the way we all feel being locked up at home and just watching social media videos all day long, which is never a good thing for your health, so why are you still here? That's the fun fact of the day, so feel free to smash the like button goblin mode style. Let's talk about the metaverse though, because the metaverse is prophesized to come to an end. Earlier this year, for example, a massive project called Decentraland, valued at $1.3 billion, reportedly had only 38 active daily users. Now, unfortunately, they did say that this was not an accurate number at the time of reporting, but it was just enough to plant the seeds of doubt that this could be the end of the metaverse, especially now with Bitcoin falling thanks to the collapse of FTX and Meta/Facebook stock losing 66% of its value this year and cutting 13% of its employees, or 11,000 people, and most NFTs essentially becoming worthless. The media is now using this as an opportunity to say that this is the end of the metaverse, but is it really? I want to give you an update on the market and share with you my personal thoughts on the future of Web3, NFTs, and of course the metaverse. It's going to be super interesting, so with that said, let's get into it. Hi, my name is Andre Jick. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're feeling better than I sound. Come for the finance and stay because things are about to get meta. So first, let me explain exactly what the metaverse is trying to be. I'll explain how the bubble was formed, and I'll give you my thoughts at the very end. So first, the metaverse is not a place that we were supposed to go. It is not an investment. It's not cryptocurrencies or Bitcoin or NFTs. Instead, it was supposed to be a moment in human history where the singularity took place and when artificial intelligence was born. The two closest movies that I'd say represent exactly what the metaverse was trying to be is Ready Player One and Free Guy with Ryan Reynolds. If you haven't seen that movie, definitely go check it out because it's pretty cool. It's basically when technology becomes self-aware, but trying to define exactly what that thing is really hard, but we've been trying to for the last few decades. And that's why our friends, our jobs, and even our identities are becoming more and more digital each year. In 1995, for example, less than 1% of the world's population used the internet. But fast forward to today, and more than 63.5% of the world uses the internet. More and more of us are starting to work from home, and the friends we make online. And as soon as the corporations realized that this is where the world was going, they started to invest and put some big money behind it, and that's when the bubble was formed. Last year, for example, Nike filed 7 trademark applications to sell merch in the metaverse, and Facebook rebranded their entire company to Meta. They changed their name just for the metaverse and for VR alone. And then other massive companies like Google, Qualcomm, Nvidia, Shopify, and so many others started to bet big. It was almost like in 2017, whenever a company considered itself a blockchain company, it was able to raise hundreds of millions of dollars. Last year, it was any company that considered itself to be a metaverse company. And that's actually one of the reasons why Microsoft is trying to buy Activision Blizzard, because it's their bet on the future of the metaverse. But it's also coincidentally being blocked by the FTC for breaking antitrust laws, which were put in place to make sure that monopolies don't happen. But the point is that as confidence from major companies grew, so did the confidence from consumers, investors, and of course the speculators. Enter digital assets like land and NFTs inside the metaverse. The hype bubble became just insane. Last year, I remember making a video where I said that this was the moment that we're gonna look back and use to figure out that this was just too good to be true. And that moment was when people started to pay over $1 million for a JPEG of a pet rock. And sure enough, that was right. That was the exact moment we should have known. NFTs became so crazy hyped that people started to pay sometimes millions of dollars for land in the metaverse. And other times they spent many millions of dollars for projects like CryptoPunks, Bored Ape Yacht Club, and of course, one of the highest NFT sales ever recorded, Beeple's Every Day, the first 5,000 days, which sold for a record-breaking almost $70 million, which is just insane. NFTs became sort of like the ICOs of 2017. And anyone who made an NFT project or was able to buy it before the general public was, essentially got a license to print free money. Even major celebrities got in on the hype, and some celebrities were even paid to promote a project called the Bored Ape Yacht Club. And I remember thinking to myself last year, what a crazy coincidence that so many celebrities got in on the hype at roughly the same time. And it turns out that it was actually a company called MoonPay that was behind the promotion. It gave the NFTs to the celebrities in exchange for promoting them. The problem, though, is that the celebrities never disclosed to the public that they were given those NFTs for free and in some cases paid to promote them, which is exactly why there's now a class action lawsuit against them. Now, unfortunately, for the people that paid an incredible amount of money for these highly speculative assets, they are down almost 90% from their all-time high, and most of them have essentially become worthless. So the real question is, now that the asset bubble has popped, is this really the end of the metaverse? Believe it or not, the idea of the metaverse actually goes back all the way to the year 1838, when a scientist by the name of Charles Wheatstone created this idea for something called binocular vision. He took two images to create one 3D image, and that's what led to the creation of stereoscopes, which is exactly the technology that is used in VR headsets today. In fact, since the 1980s, when the internet was first created, to the 1990s, when it started to become a little bit more mainstream, is when we first dabbled with this concept of the metaverse. But it wasn't in VR just yet, it was through a thick computer screen. That was the time of Web 1.0, an internet that we could only read, until 2003 and 2004, when the first Web 2.0 pages started to pop up, and that was a read and write internet, where other people could contribute their own material for others to experience. And as the processing power eventually got faster, as the graphics got better, and as web pages started to look nicer, is when the devices and the tools we use to experience this metaverse started to get smaller and smaller until eventually this interface became portable. Today we have the ability to instantly teleport across the world from anywhere we want. Some people are able to raise over $1 billion for their YouTube channel, and other people go to the internet to find love. So this idea of the metaverse will eventually be everywhere, and it was partially made possible thanks to Web 3.0, a shift away from ownership by big companies to ownership and full control given to the individual. So this idea of the metaverse is already here. It's in our pocket and it's constantly evolving. Eventually Skynet will go live and it will imprison all of humanity, but for now we've got some time as we debate what the metaverse actually is. If you're still not sure about this, and if you still think it's just a passing trend, then here's another way to look at this that's gonna blow your mind. I'm gonna sound insane, so stick with me. I know, because I've tried to explain this to someone at a party I went to once, and it didn't go over well. I asked someone, what do you think the metaverse is? It's VR, right? Not exactly, let me explain. And they were like, so just prepare, it's gonna get very philosophic, but I'm gonna tie it all together at the end. The metaverse is sort of like the ultimate simulation of the three principles that John Locke wrote about 300 years before I was born in the year 1689. Life, liberty, and property. So those concepts do exist out here in the physical world, but they're limited. They're sort of an illusion. And here's what I mean. The first one, for example, which is liberty, which represents freedom. It's freedom from something, or it's freedom to do something. So that's how I like to look at investing. When I invest money, I'm getting freedom from and freedom to. So this concept of freedom does exist in the physical world, and we have laws to protect it. But there's also a limitation based on the laws of the universe and actual laws that human beings wrote, which means that there's a limitation on how much freedom we actually have. We need to have a job, for example, and we need to make money, and we're limited by the physical laws of the universe over how we look, and over what we say, and over what we can do. But ultimate control over this idea of liberty in the metaverse means that we're not bound by physical or social laws over how we appear. We can look like anything we want. We're not bound by the concept of money, and we can experience infinite space because we can travel anywhere we want, and we're not bound by the concept of time because we can get there as fast as we want. And that is a pretty cool way to experience this idea of liberty that we otherwise couldn't out here in the physical world. Now, the second concept is the concept of property, which is a fancy way of saying stuff. Everyone has stuff. We spend most of our lives getting money so we could get more stuff. But if you really think about it, we control very little of that stuff. Now, there are laws in place by the government to protect our stuff and the police, but it's not a perfect system. If you don't pay, for example, your taxes and insurance, your house could be taken away from you. If you get pulled over with cash in your car, that can also be taken away from you legally. It's actually called civil forfeiture. Look up a video by John Oliver on this concept, it's pretty mind-blowing. If you make money, you have to pay taxes. If you save money, then the value of that money will eventually go down thanks to the government debasing or decreasing its value thanks to them printing more money and thanks to inflation. If you really think about it, there are very few things in this world that we have true control over. Even something like our bodies, not everyone has the full right and say over what they could do to their body. So if anything, it's still kind of an illusion. But the metaverse sort of simulates what true control over property might look like using these digital assets by way of all the buzzwords we've been hearing about for years, like blockchain and decentralization. So our appearances, the things we do, and the things we say are our own, and no one can steal them away from us as long as we have control over our own private keys. And no government can ever debase or lower the value of the things we bring into this world because they're governed by code which says there's only 21 million of these things that will ever exist, and there you go. And if you think about it, that's kind of an interesting way to experience what real true control over property might look like. And then there's the third idea, life. Do we own and control our lives? That's sort of a deep and very debatable question. Depending on where you ask it, some parts of the world and some governments, if you break certain laws, are able to take that life away. So if we could control our lives, and if we had the choice of where we could experience this utopian world, then where would we choose to live it? Because obviously we can't experience it here in the physical world. That to me is what the metaverse is trying to be. It's not one place, it's not an investment, it's just an idea that human beings have been chasing based on our values of life, liberty, and property. Which means that as long as we're chasing it, this idea of the metaverse, as the architect would say, is inevitable. Now, unfortunately, when it comes to thinking about this from an investment point of view and how to make money from all this, I have no idea. I wish I did, but I don't know. I try in my own little way to buy certain kind of NFTs and certain kind of cryptocurrencies, but at the end of the day, not a single person in this world knows which metaverse and which digital asset will become the valuable currency of this future utopian world. I have my ideas, but I don't think they're necessarily right. And that's why I said as early as December of last year that it's good to be an early investor, but you don't want to be too early because it's way too speculative, and that's why I'd never go all in. Unless you're extremely wealthy, I would never think about this from an investing point of view. If anything, I would look at it like gambling. And because I'm not 100% sure which specific asset is going to be that future is why crypto never made more than 10% of my overall net worth. But as always, I would love to hear your thoughts about this future utopian world. As always, have a wonderful rest of your day. Smash the like button, subscribe if you haven't already. Don't forget to grab your free stocks, links are down below, and then go track them automatically with the spreadsheet link down below in my Patreon. Love you, thank you so much for watching this video. I'll see you back here on Monday, Friday, sometimes Wednesday. See you soon, bye-bye.